Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Mikey Lucas, the founder of the American Energy Fund, alongside founding and leading Exit Academy. His professional focus centers on sustainable energy investments spanning solar, oil and gas, and nuclear assets, while blending financial returns with environmental responsibility to drive U.S. energy independence. With a decade of experience in business development and marketing, he guides investors from side hustlers to nine-figure enterprises toward generational wealth through billionaire-level strategies and hands-on ventures, like negotiating alternative energy deals. With that being said, Mikey, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you, man. Let's dive into the conversation. There's a lot that I want to cover. And what I love to begin with is a bit of traveling back in time, really. So before you even started this company, what was the journey like? What were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting all of this?
Sure. So I've got a lot. I don't want to go through the entire story. That's all over the internet, but I'll try to give you the synopsis of it. Essentially, I'm born and raised in Vegas. Was a three-sport athlete, was in theater and dance shows in high school, went into college, dropped out of college three times. I had an academic scholarship. I technically cheated my way through high school. I thought it was a team effort. That's what I thought you did. And in business, it's the same way, but it's more of a rip off and duplicate, which I'd love to get into later on. I learned that from a mentor of mine named Cole. After high school, like I said, got into college. During that time frame of graduating high school, my parents broke up. So at that time, I started using drugs and then abusing drugs, and then it started to abuse me. So now so it's 2026 now. I stopped using Oxycontin and synthetic heroin and heroin pills and all that back in 2013, really in 2012, but I had a small relapse in 2013. So I had that journey of getting out of that drug scene, party scene, club scene, if you can imagine. Vegas, you've probably seen the movie. What's that movie? The Vegas movie. Oh my God. Hangover. Yeah, that was pretty much every weekend, minus like Mike Tyson and the Tigers all the time. That was like every month. So grew up really fast. The third boy in the family. So I grew up really fast. I realized that mentally I wanted to be accepted by my brothers. I wanted to be loved by my brothers, by my mom and my dad. Definitely I would say a mama's boy. And then I have a little sister. So our entire family is entrepreneurial. My brothers and sister are all entrepreneurs today. So it's pretty awesome. Our family lineage comes from entrepreneurs as well. Before me, my grandma's brothers, my nana's brothers all own big tuna boats. My grandfather and his brothers all own hardware stores and real estate businesses in New York. So second generation here in America and still have that dog, which is important. We were taught at a very young age how to value the dollar of money, rather value money, the dollar, to value that, and also to value time and to value human capital as well. So people, relationships. A statement my dad always told me growing up was know when to party and know when to work, and don't mix the two. And those foundational principles that my father and my mom taught me growing up still are here today in my businesses, and the core values of how I was raised are here as well. Even though my family didn't end up staying together, I still was able to take a lot of what to do and a lot of what not to do. And then getting into college, the whole story, got dumped by my high school sweetheart, it wrecked me. I was searching for a meaning for life. I ended up having an encounter in San Diego when I was getting sober with these guys from this Christian church. I ended up starting to follow Jesus at that time. And so very proud to say that Christian entrepreneur, which normally means that's second, like usually when you deal with Christian entrepreneurs, it's like their product is not that good. I do everything in as if I'm doing it for God. In other words, if I'm taking out the trash, it's like I'm taking God's trash out. I'm having a good time right now. And so it's really about a mindset that you can have about being grateful. So that kind of just spewed into my career, which I got into restaurants. I worked in some fine dining steakhouses in the Strip. Stopped working for Gordon Ramsay on the Strip as a back waiter there. I was making anywhere between 50 to 80 grand a year. Got into door-to-door sales. And then that door-to-door career ended really in 2020, 2021 during COVID, when I was going to sell my company, was in the process of selling my company, got commitments, and then that company was then stolen from me. However you want to say it. It was one smart person meets a not so smart person. And that's how that works. So it is what it is. Ended up starting, rather going back to the door-to-door career. So if you can imagine, I didn't do summer sales. I did 1 year of summer sales back in 2013, 2014, and then immediately got into full-time door-to-door sales. So 6.5 days a week, all summer, all winter, all spring, all fall. So full-time door-to-door sales. And that taught me a lot. I started my personal development journey here in Dallas, Texas, where I'm at today in 2015 when I worked for a company called Solar City, which is now known by Tesla Energy. I got bought by them, started reading books about money, started reading books about leadership, was just around a lot of really good men who were people worth following, and learned that I could also acquire those character traits and attributes if I wanted them. Because back then if I didn't get my way, I would throw a hissy fit, like I was still a child. So I had to grow and learn how to be an adult instead of a man, instead of a boy who can shave. And so I learned that personal development journey while on my faith journey, as well as learning how to go and build strong businesses like I'm doing today. And so then in 2021, I started the company American Energy Fund with just a simple idea of, we have a power problem and I could sell one solar panel at a time, or I could go and figure out how to solve the problem inside of the United States. And obviously, that's a crazy idea, but I had enough money because of the business that we did within the door-to-door sales of selling alarm systems, home automations, and solar panels, batteries, small commercial solar as well. Made enough money to be able to invest that money like everyone else does, stocks, cryptocurrency, real estate, all that. Had some normal people would say is like generational wealth, which I did at one point. At the height of it was about $28,000 a month in quote unquote passive income, multiple six figures a year in passive income. And at that point, I was like, dude, I can conquer the world. I'm going to go start a private equity firm as a 29-year-old. That's a college dropout. Normally, statistically speaking, that wouldn't work. And so went out, raised a bunch of money, deployed a bunch of money, millions of dollars, raised millions of dollars, deployed millions of dollars, learned how this private equity world works, and then eventually got the opportunity to now be a part of a massive data center project here in Dallas, Texas, which is why I'm here, which is a 3,000 megawatt behind the meter power plant and data center. So 3,000 megawatt IT, 3 gigawatts, and a fully behind the meter islanded power plant, which is at the time 6 months ago was bizarre. Now there's 7, 8. Kevin O'Leary came out with a 7 or 8 gigawatt campus. So we're no longer like the crazy ones in the room anymore. But yeah, it's been a wild journey, and I'd love to share with your audience how in the hell I did this, because I will be straightforward with you. I don't believe I deserve to be in these rooms, but I'm here. And so if I'm here, I might as well swing for the fences. And I do. And I take personal development. I take my relationship with God seriously. I take relationship with my wife, with my family seriously. I do things on purpose. I think that's a big differentiator between me and I think everybody else is, number one, I understand I have 168 hours every single week. So what am I doing with all 168 hours? And if that's not getting me where I want to be, then I should change. If you want things to change, you need to change, right? Learn that from Jim Rohn back in the day, right? Now Theo Vaughn's saying it, and it's all going all viral over the internet. Theo Vaughn's saying it. But if you want things to change, you have to change. And I didn't want to be 260 pounds anymore, so now I'm 220. What did I change? I started going to the gym a little bit more. I started watching my diet a little bit more. I started making sure I was getting better sleep, taking better blood, doing blood work, making sure my hormones were optimized, so on and so forth. And it's the same thing in my marriage, the same thing in my business, same thing in my finances, same thing in relationships with the world. I just do things on purpose. I procrastinate on purpose. I go on Instagram and TikTok and whatever. I don't really go on TikTok, but like X on purpose. Like those things are scheduled in my calendar. I'm very, I don't want to say I don't optimize, but I guess my day is optimized to get the result that I want because I'm an achiever. And I know that if I'm not doing things that I feel like are moving towards some sort of goal, whatever that looks like, whatever my goal is, I don't feel like I did enough. And then you do that days in a row, weeks in a row, months in a row, and I personally feel like I'm not doing anything. And I don't want to feel like that. So I just figured out how in the heck I work. It's this Rubik's Cube science experiment that took 4, 5, 10 years, and it's going to continue to go on. And that's where I'm at today.
Man, I love this. First of all, before I say anything else, I just gotta congratulate you. It's been over 12 years now that you've been sober. I feel
Wow.
like there must have been like one of the toughest moments in your life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of other people don't really get out of that position. It's amazing to see. Congrats again. And I also feel like with you mentioning everything, I feel like what you've experienced in the past 15 years, that's for some people like 4 lifetimes. It's also quite amazing to see that you're still standing here to tell the story and you don't seem to be close to stopping anytime soon, which is great. Now, Jesus, I have so many thoughts based on what you've said. I gotta collect myself. But no, really, what I want to do now is really take a look in terms of where this journey got you overall and what the business really looks like for you today, right? Now, there's going to be a lot of other business owners listening to this.
Good.
Obviously, everybody's on a different path, but help me build some clarity for the audience in terms of how the business operates, who it is that you're looking to acquire as your clients, investors. How does that process work? What is that core offering that you're working with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So let's go back, actually. Let's go back like 4 years, because that might be more applicable to where I think the majority of people are going to be at. Where I'm at today, I'll just say there's probably 10 banks that can actually be my client. And there's 7 clients that can be my client for the data centers. So I'm in a very narrow now, like laser focused on those specific, if you will, clients or relationships that I need to build. 17 probably total, 20 max. So I'm very niched into that. But prior to that, it was with the American Energy Fund, we were doing what's called a retail raise, meaning we are raising money. We started with finding assets, started with an idea. Hey, we're going to go build a cash flowing portfolio that would return cash to the investors and also at the same time give upfront tax benefits by investing into oil and gas wells, investing into solar projects, investing into carbon, whatever, things like that. That would cash flow, but also give tax benefits upfront because that's what people want. And then it's quickly turned into a total return fund, which basically means a true private equity idea of, hey, you put in $100,000 and in 10 years, you get back $250,000, $300,000. So total return fund. And we pivoted. The marketing initially was people wanted tax credits, right? Because taxes were going up. Now that there's all these tax breaks, it's really nice. But one way or the other, we started with retail raise $100,000 at a time, $200,000 at a time, $500,000 at a time. And we're just going and deploying it into assets that we would go and negotiate and find these contractors, oil and gas contractors that would drill. And it's not very hard. If you go on LinkedIn and say, I have money, does anybody know where I can put my money in oil and gas wells? You're going to get blown up all over the internet. People are going to DM you like crazy. And that's basically what I did. I just said, hey, I have money, even though I didn't have any money at the time. Technically, I have my own money, but I didn't have millions of dollars at the time. I just said, hey, I need to deploy money. Where can I deploy money at? Every broker from the world started showing up in my DMs and I started getting on calls. And what do? When it comes to any business, I treat business like it's a sport. So if I can get enough hacks in the batting cage, I will be better in the batter's box on game 7 of the World Series. I don't want to practice for a changeup from whoever, right? Whoever the best closer in baseball is, whatever. I don't want to practice for that changeup on game 7 when the bases are loaded with 2 outs and we're down by 2. I want to practice in the batting cage 1,000 times, just like Steph Curry, just like who I grew up watching and studying, Tony Gwynn, Kobe Bryant, these guys, Michael Jordan, these guys would take thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of reps. And I said, I'm no different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn business into a sport and say, okay, I have to do thousands of reps for me to get to that point, but then also being able to reflect on how I'm shooting the ball or hitting the ball. So to be able to reflect on that that's a nugget in and of itself. If you're not doing that and you're not growing and you're not getting better, it's probably because you're not reviewing your own film, which is very important. Whether it's your calls, your podcast, whatever it looks like, your posts, you should be reviewing those, critiquing yourself, asking for people to critique you. It's very uncomfortable. People typically will say, yeah, you sucked here, you did this here, you did that there. And most people, they want to be flattered. Our generation, they want to be flattered. I get it. I grew up too in our generation. We want to be flattered, right? They were giving out participation awards when I was in kindergarten. I remember that. So yeah, we started with retail, and then eventually the goal was to be able to get into energy infrastructure, like literal utility infrastructure. And you just work your way into those doors. And with the name American Energy Fund, it just clicked, and people were like, huh, we want to do business with Mikey. And I just wasn't in it for what can I get out of this. I brought the mindset of how can I add value to these people that I'm around? And then eventually maybe they'll want to do business with me. And that's what I did. And it takes a long time to do that. But again, I did that because I had thousands of dollars a month coming in from passive income from my previous career, and then transitioned into going and running a 29-year-old running a private equity firm. Now I'm 33. So obviously we've had it for almost 4 years now, but now we're into infrastructure. So we're building power plants for data centers specifically. as well as data centers. And what's funny is the negotiations that are happening within those conversations are the exact same process, if you will, different language, obviously different language, going and talking into a doctor and talking to a someone that builds whatever, someone that builds roads, like the language barrier is going to be different, but the language is the process rather from A to Z is still the same as far as am I going to get screwed over? Am I going to get a bad deal? And is how is this guy out to F me? And if you can convince them that's not the case and that you're a ride or die, they'll bet on you. Even if you don't have a track record, which is this guy.
You know what? I feel like you are actually a perfect example of nobody is growing while staying comfortable. What you said about it, this is the truth of the day and age that we live in, to be honest. And I
Yeah.
feel like as a society, we are conditioned to seek that comfort. But like you said, with Jim Rohn, nothing changes if nothing changes. I love that quote, and it's a big truth. Now, let me ask you this: retrospectively, looking back at the journey of this business, American Energy Fund, what would you say was the most challenging part of getting into the industry, but also staying in?
I would say the hardest part was staying in it. Just like any other business, the majority of businesses fail within the first 24 months. So having staying power is the hardest part. But to get to that point, you have to first believe that you can do it. That was the hardest. That was the initial hardest hurdle. And then after that, it's then staying power is I think Pitbull said it at one point. It's not about getting there, it's staying there. So you need to get it, keep it, and then enjoy it. So initially, yeah, I had all the doubt in the world. I'm just like everybody else. I just can, when negative thoughts, Mikey, you're a college dropout, you're an ex-drug addict, like you're this, you're that, you're product of divorce, like you're all these things. I just combat it with truths that I know are true about me. You know, you did this in the past, and if you can do that in the past, then you can do this now. Like you have the consistency before. I just forgot to remind myself of that so often, and now that's what I do. I just remind myself. I've got an album on my phone called the "You Did It" album, and I got another album called "Remember This" album. Why? Because when I said I was going to go do something, as an example, I lived in Dallas, Texas in 2015, 2016. That's when the Model X came out. I said I was going to own that exact car. Right this very second, I own essentially that exact car, blue, white interior Model X. And so I put those in that folder because when I feel down, because I do feel down often, I have to go back to that, remind myself, like, hey, you do follow through with the things you say you're going to do. Yes, you've failed in the past. Yes, you've not followed through before, but that doesn't make you who you are because the things that you add up over time will outweigh the scale of, yeah, these little failures down here, they're like nothing. People don't even remember those. Does anybody remember that Tiger Woods, the whole debacle with his wife? No, they remember him now, again, as the top dog in golf, which he's not the top dog in golf anymore, but you get the point.
Yeah.
It's the reprogramming is the key. The reprogramming and the
Yeah.
consistent reprogramming. I cannot express that to you enough and the listeners enough that you have to continue. You have to have a standard operating procedure of when the crap hits the fan. What do you think in your brain? You have 86,000 thoughts a day. The majority of them are negative. I just said, I'm not going to be the 86,000 thoughts a day and 90% of them, 80% of them are negative. I'm going to be 80, 90% of them are positive. And so I just started to transition my brain into thinking positively. One of those is not sitting in silence, which I do recommend sitting in silence. But the other thing is in the morning, immediately I pop on Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Eric Thomas, Les Brown, something positive, inspirational, educational for me immediately, because otherwise my brain goes, oh shit, I need to do all this thing. Oh my God, what about this? What about that? What about this? Oh my God, tax season, crap, what do I do? And so before the world meets me, I pour in. And it's worked for me. I'm saying it
And
works
the
for
worst
everybody, but it
thing
worked for
about
me.
this is that actually 60% of those plus is repetitive every
Uh-huh.
single day.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I love this, man. I was just about to say it's funny how it sounds simple, but at the same time, it's definitely not easy. So
Not easy.
it takes a longest time for somebody to actually master and really create this kind of self-support system. But
Yeah,
uh,
self-support. That's good.
yeah, yeah, but
Like,
I would love to dive into it, but that's a whole different conversation.
yeah, yeah,
But let me ask you this. Obviously, the trajectory of the business, it changed tremendously. So
yeah.
I'm looking at the future now. If you look at the long-term perspective, what is really that create the vision that you've created for the company that you want to see and make reality?
America, like right now, today, as we're filming this, Texas is about to go through one of the worst freezes in its history. My goal is to make it where that doesn't happen, where the grid is hardened, where we don't have to worry about are we going to pay our electricity bill because government policies say we have to have X amount of this fuel or that generation or whatever. The goal is to make energy cheap in America, abundantly cheap in America, so that we as American citizens can go and spend our money on things that we actually want rather than our power bills and our gas bills and our gasoline car bills. And by doing that, we have to go build more power plants. And one of those is building power plants for data centers, because data centers, we all know it's no, unless your head's been under a rock, you realize that that power plants are power hungry. So to solve, we cannot stop AI from going forward. It's too late. So the only way to solve the grid situation is to build power plants on site for data centers, which is what we're doing. And then the excess power that the data center doesn't use gets sold back into the grid and alleviates stress from the grid. Solves the problem.
What do you feel like is going to be the biggest challenge about making this happen?
Human capital. We don't have enough humans that have skilled laborers. That's really the big challenge. It's not really even the money. There's enough money out there. You can finance it. There's enough debt. Equity is usually pretty hard to get, but you can get it. Finding the right general contractor is pretty easy. There's 7 hyperscalers. There's really 20, but there's 7 hyperscalers that can lease out your buildings, and there's a million different neo clouds and other tenants like Wells Fargo needs data centers, right? Like all these companies need data centers, data center space, leasing space. The main thing is the workers, and I'm convinced, and I'm a big Elon guy working for his companies in the past. I'm convinced that robots are going to help with that. They're going to assist humans. We already have them. If you look at a lot of these houses now, they have Roombas. You know what a Roomba is? A little robot vacuum thing, right? That is really like an R2D2 C3PO in your house, cleaning your house. Eventually, it's just going to go vertical. Say it again.
That was really just the beginning, though.
That's just the very beginning, right? And robots will eventually help with the human capital side. And then, other than that, I think one of the other big problems is the energy part of it, because most data centers today and over the next 2 years are going to be naturally gas powered. I actually have a hesitation that we're eventually going to run out of natural gas because of how much natural gas these things use. I get it, guys. I know. There's all this oil under our feet. There's all this gas under our feet. I get it. And we haven't even really tapped into Alaska. I get it. And I know Canada has a bunch, and all of a sudden now Venezuela has a bunch. I get it, but eventually we're going to run out. And so if that's a potential problem, what I learned from Elon Musk is if in the future we're going to have a catastrophic event, we should probably try to start fixing it now, not fix it when it's a problem. So my goal is to find new technologies and advance them. And so that's why we invest into those companies through American Energy Fund. Not all of our portfolio is in those venture capital startups, but we have some money there. And I personally invest in those companies as well because I believe in them. And I would like to see if they would work. There's some freaking really cool technology that's coming out, like advanced geothermal, salt batteries. It's just some really awesome technologies that will even beat nuclear.
I bet. Mikey, it's hard to believe how many questions I have for you based on this conversation and where we could go with it. But at this point, I'm going to be respectful of your time as well. Thank you so much for taking some of your time today, sharing this beautiful story with me and the audience. It is powerful. So I'm grateful that you made it happen. Now, if there is anybody listening to this right now who could possibly support your journey in any way, shape, or form, if they want to look you up, what is the best way to go about it?
The best way to do it is Instagram. I'm in my DMs on Instagram. I do have my team, my internal team is in my DMs, but I answer questions. My team brings up, if people ask me questions on Instagram, usually it's the first 1 or 2 is going to be my team, but then they will bring it to me. And I like to be involved because I was there. I'm still them. I still think of me as them. I am still them. I am you. I've walked 10,000 miles in your steps. And so I love to give back. So I send voice memos all the time through Instagram, people that reach out. And I think the best thing is when you're not an asshole, if you're actually showing that you're actually going to go do the things that you're asking, like you want the answers to, there's no skin up my back to be able to help. Dude, absolutely. It's what fires me up, dude. we have enough money to not work forever right now. I actually like to give back. Now, easy for me to say, but guess what? The last 10 years wasn't like that. It was up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Oh my God, I can't pay my mortgage. Oh my God, I might have my car repoed. Yeah, been there, done that multiple times, guys. Now it's a much different ballgame, and this time will be different. So yeah, Instagram is the best way to go. Otherwise, I'm all over YouTube, TikTok, X, and all the platforms. I'm just not on Snapchat.
I think, by the way, this is probably my favorite part about today's interaction, just knowing that you don't really have to do anything from what you're doing right now, but you still wake up every single day and show up with the right intention, which is in itself very inspiring. Thank you again. It was a pleasure to connect with you. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or a coach, or you have an agency and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from 0 to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and we'll see you on the next one.